Congress is making changes to the military vaccine mandate. What did they do, and does it go far enough? Hi, I'm Stuart Shepard, and this is First Liberty Live. Thank you for liking and sharing our videos. That's how we get to meet new friends online, and you are an important part of that, and we appreciate you for doing that. Danielle Runyan is one of our attorneys here who works on military issues for First Liberty Institute. She's also a major in the U.S. Air Force, in the Reserve, I should add. She's speaking here today in her role, I have to say, I put asterisks around this to make sure I say it, in your role as a First Liberty attorney.
Yes.
Because we want to make clear that you're not wearing a uniform when you're talking here. But you do wear the uniform, and thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right. Let's talk about all this. This is all centered on the National Defense Authorization Act. What is that? Most of us don't know anything about it.
So every year, Congress negotiates various sections of what we will call the NDAA to account for different areas where money is needed to fund various projects. And this year, it happens that the COVID mandate is going to be repealed. So
Okay.
that's the latest update that we've heard. It hasn't passed yet, being the NDAA has not passed Senate yet, but the first step, it has passed the House.
Okay. So this is a ginormous bill with a lot of stuff in it that pays for stuff.
Yes.
That's my layman definition
That's right.
of that.
For defense of our nation.
How
Yes.
does a funding bill then connect with the vaccine mandate? What's the overlap there?
Well, in this instance, there are times when there are substantive provisions that need to be addressed. And here, the House and the Senate, hopefully, agree that the COVID-19 vaccine mandate that was implemented needs to be repealed.
Okay, and it's no surprise this is happening at this particular time because it's after one election, but it's before everybody's sworn in. They call this the lame duck session, and things tend to happen that involve a lot of political intrigue, if you will, but we're not going to get into that because that's not what we do. We're going to talk about the impact on religious freedom, and particularly for the service members that we represent. What did Congress do so far concerning the vaccine mandate and the religious freedom of our service members? Where are we?
So religious freedom has not been addressed, but what has been addressed is that going forward, service members will no longer have to comply with a vaccine mandate. They will no longer be required to be vaccinated for COVID-19 to serve in the military.
Okay. Going forward, being the operative part of what you just said, meaning if you're a new service member, you're no longer under that requirement. But for all those who have already been serving, they're still under that requirement? Am I reading it right?
So, no, for everyone serving, it applies to everyone. So those who are a part of our lawsuits, the Spence suit and the Navy SEAL suit, myself, I will not have to be vaccinated going forward.
Okay.
However, our cases still continue.
Okay.
And that, if you want me to get into that, or I can.
Yeah, let's do, because I'm trying to understand this in my head.
Sure.
So basically, going forward, nothing new bad will happen, but all the bad things that already happened, we still have to be talked about and dealt with. Now, am I saying it right?
You are saying it right. So,
Okay.
so a little bit of an add-on to that.
Yeah.
So there's a section in the NDAA, in the 2022 NDAA, that talked about the discharge characterization for service members who failed to obey the lawful order to get vaccinated for COVID-19.
Translate that for the rest of us.
Okay, so if a service member in 2022 failed to comply with what the military views as a lawful order to get vaccinated for COVID-19,
Right.
if a member failed to follow that order, they got to the end of the appeal process with their religious accommodation requests, or didn't file anything at all and just said, you know what, I'm not getting vaccinated. For those service members, there's a discharge characterization that Congress recognized. That provision still stands in the 2023 NDAA, which signals to us that the punishments that people received in our case for not getting vaccinated, even though they had a religious accommodation request pending.
Right.
The case still continues because we have to deal with all of that punishment and the treatment that those members received.
All right. I think I'm getting a handle on this now because it is a bit complex,
It is.
but it's important to understand where we are. So as far as the legal case, it's going to continue because all of that happened.
Right.
And it needs to be adjudicated. It needs to go to court and be dealt with, right?
Sure. I mean, for our folks, so again, in the Navy SEALs case and in the Spence case, so that's the Air Force case, we have members who were discriminated against, retaliated against, the treatment that they received, people who were not able to perform their duties. So a large part of what we do in the military, on an annual basis, we get rated. And if we don't have sufficient ratings, we're not going to be able to advance in the military. We're not going to be able to advance in rank. And ultimately, our careers will end. So that's all the stuff that we have to deal with in our cases.
So if you're a pilot and you're not allowed to fly, it's not going well for you.
That's right. And actually, in our Spence case, we have two pilots, two of our plaintiffs, who have been grounded from flying.
Wow.
Because they got to the point in the process where discharge proceedings had started to be initiated against them. And the way that the Air Force views that situation is that they are not eligible to fly, even though, let's just say, for their command, which is 19th Air Force, so that's a training command. Our pilots are instructor pilots.
Yeah.
And other instructor pilots who also did not follow the vaccine mandate, they had their accommodation requests pending and they were denied. They are back to flying. But our two plaintiffs, just because they had discharge proceedings initiated against them, they are still grounded from flying, and that is damaging their career.
And what happens to those that were kicked out over the last year or so, who saw their career end at a time when they weren't ready, they weren't done yet, they wanted to keep serving?
Well, so those individuals are not necessarily a part of the classes that are pending in court.
Right.
But what we have seen is that Senator Ted Cruz, he is looking to implement legislation that would affect those service members who were fired and removed from the military as a result of the mandate.
All right, that's helpful. We always make a point to say when we do these that we're not giving advice on whether anyone should get the vaccine. Even here within the building, we have some who have not, some who have. We have differing opinions on that. We assume that you're a smart person and you can make that decision on your own. And we're not medical experts anyway, so we don't want to give you medical advice. But what our team is expert on is what the law says about your rights as a citizen concerning your religious freedom. So let's talk about that. Encapsulate for me what the law says concerning religious freedom for service members who are currently serving when it comes to something like a vaccine that they object to based upon their faith.
So the Religious Freedom Restoration Act protects service members just like it protects every other citizen of our nation. And what we're seeing is that the Religious Freedom Restoration Act was completely ignored by the Department of Defense through this process. So what we're challenging is the fact that the Department of Defense has no interest, it appears, in honoring service members' religious liberties. And that's something that needs to change. And we hope that going forward in this next year, particularly for Congress, that that's something that's addressed.
You talked a bit about the clients that we're representing, and just to recap that, this all started out, we were representing a group of Navy SEALs who had asked for a religious accommodation. That got expanded to all service members in the Navy who have asked for a religious accommodation.
That's right.
A separate suit in the Air Force, same thing, basically, for those who requested a religious accommodation. What's the status of those two? Where are we in those fights right now?
So our Spence case, the Air Force clients, which again includes myself,
Yeah.
we are a part of the class that is in the Doster case. So that's out of Ohio. The Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals just upheld the preliminary injunction that was issued and also the injunction that was extended to the class.
And explain what that injunction did real quick. You've talked about it, but just so everybody's clear,
Sure.
what's going on?
So the injunctive relief that the Air Force members were given is that they can continue to serve. No further punishment will be taken against them. And so everything's kind of just frozen in place for now. They can continue to serve, they can continue to work as the case continues and as it heads to trial.
Very good. Okay, and over on the Navy side?
On the Navy side, we are set to have oral argument before the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in February. And again, everybody is held in place, they are working. No further punishment can be taken against them, and then we proceed to trial.
And you are busy.
To say the least, yes.
To give you, and I don't know how to give a sense of this, but our attorneys are devoted to this. You don't work for a nonprofit legal organization because you just like the cubicles in the offices. That's not why you come here. You do it because you have passion for it and are determined to see changes made. And you've been putting in a lot of hours. And I just want to say thank you from all the rest of us for what you're doing. Thank you for that. And I want people out there to know how hard our attorneys work representing the folks that we represent.
Yes, it's a mission, and we are all devoted and dedicated to this mission. We will keep going until, God calls us to stop, and hopefully that's not anytime soon.
Well, we'll be praying for you, and we invite you to pray for our attorneys as well, and our legal folks who are working on this, our volunteer attorneys as well, who are pitching in time. What's your advice for service members now? We often just give general advice that every situation is different. So, if you have a specific situation you're curious about, you got to get expert advice. But what's your general advice for people in the service when it comes to the vaccine mandate?
So I'll talk to our class members and also just others who are in the similar situation.
Yeah.
Just continue to do your job. Continue to be the service member that you have always wanted to be. Continue to rise above, perform your duties, and let us do our job in the courts.
All right, very good. Last question for you. Anything else you'd like to share before I let you go?
No, I guess I would just reiterate that I really do hope that this upcoming year, Congress is going to pay better attention to religious liberty issues generally, but particularly with respect to service members.
Yeah.
What we saw, what we've seen, what we continue to see in these cases is just something that shouldn't be. These folks, people can go and look at firstliberty.org, check out some of the filings that we've made. These individuals have dedicated their lives. They're willing to put their life on the line for our country. They have served honorably. They are award-winning individuals. This just should not be happening. And we really hope that Congress addresses this so that we can move forward and, have better national security and stop focusing on purging religious service members from their jobs.
When you talk to our clients, let them know there's a lot of us who have their six, and we are cheering them on. We're cheering for them every step of the way.
I will let them know.
All right. Danielle Runyan, thank you for your work on this, and thank you for your service to our country as well. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for your interest in what we do here. First Liberty Institute, as I mentioned, is a nonprofit legal organization, the largest one in the country, exclusively focused on fighting religious freedom battles like we were just talking about. If you care about these issues as much as we do, we invite you to join with us. You can help us close out the calendar year end here. You may be thinking about making donations as we come up on the end of the year. Would you consider supporting the work that we do as well? All you have to do is click on the big red Give button up at the top of the page on firstlibertylive.com or at firstliberty.org. And let me just say thank you in advance from all of us for your gift. We appreciate you. We're able to do what we do because of you, and any victories we get are your victories as well. First Liberty is the last line of defense and your greatest hope for victory.